Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj, for giving me an opportunity to talk on this topic. In fact, after having talked about the LASIK, we are moving step ahead, done the refraction, and now we need to choose the right procedure. About a minute back, I was just addressing a patient who had come for an ICL surgery, and the parent of the patient was a little too apprehensive. And I just told a single sentence that don't worry, even if anything goes wrong, the beauty of the procedure is that it's a reversible procedure. But whenever we are dealing with a keratorefractive surgery, the main thing we need to understand is that it is not a reversible procedure. Once done, it is done forever. And the decision before you fly is the main crux for your success. So you need to be very specific that what procedure and what surgery you are choosing for your patient. Before I answer the title question, I would like to ask ourselves another group of questions, my friend. Why are the surgeons reversing their attitude from LASIK towards a PRK? The choice is changing. Is PRK more safe because of no flap being there, less chances of ectasia, less thinning with a thicker residual bed, and the ease of choosing the procedure even in suspicious corneas, and no effect on the posterior segment with less of dry eye? So the answer for all these was yes. But why then a great evolution occurred from PRK in the excimer laser surgeries going on to LASIK? It is because I would say none of the procedures is very safe and which is not associated with problems. And PRK is also the same. It is also associated with its own problems. And the main problem exists is of haze. Haze can be early and late, which can be due to an early removal of contact lens in the bad healing or the bad surface of the cornea, more of UVA exposure, and high corrective powers. So we need to limit ourselves in these. An improper decision was taken, and that is why we learned from our mistake in this case. Was a case where a surgery was done, a perfect surgery was done, but still the cornea was scarred. And the scar was a little too much to affect the vision of the patient. But when we went back and took the history, we saw that the patient had a history of keloid formation. So we need to choose the right patient for the right procedure, and any surgery of refractive surgery in general should be avoided in a patient with keloid history. This is another example of a patient in which a LASIK surgery was done. The patient had a regression because a high power was treated. And as per our decision, we tend to correct the refractive or the regression, thinking of epithelial hyperplasia being the main cause. And we did a surface ablation for this patient. To our surprise, it was our first experience of treating a patient with a surface ablation, and we found this. And maybe my experience with my own one patient was so bad that I didn't have the capacity to go further. And I would like to ask the expert panelists that do you feel that the surface ablation in the treatment of LASIK is safe doing it over the flap, or one should avoid? Maybe in the end, we can have an experience or a suggestion from all of you. Still, the problems are beyond the haze. So there are problems of persistent epithelial defect. There are chances of infection. Regression of refraction is a common scenario, which is generally seen in the first 1 year only and does not go on further. Slow rehabilitation is another issue because the patient will keep nagging your head for almost about 6 weeks for a vision to be restored to a satisfactory level of a 6x6 or a 6x5. And scarring, of course, is an issue. So what to choose from, LASIK or a PRK? Well, here is a comparative list which says that surface ablation's main issues are of haze and infection. And if I say that if we are able to eliminate these from our scope, then I believe surface ablation would be the choice in my, according to me. So if we see that that PRK got an FDA approval in 1995, over the journey of excimer, we found that LASIK picked up in between, and still now we are coming back to what is called as advanced surface ablation. I would use the word advanced surface ablation because now with a slight modification in PRK, by using mitomycin C, doing epi-LASIK, LASIK, or the latest in our kitty is the transepithelial PRK. I feel that we are in a much safer zone, and advanced surface ablation is the answer to our problems. So when we talk of advanced surface ablation, I would say that we are able to give a better quality of vision to our patients. We reduce their post-operative pain and minimize the chance of corneal haze. I would say that in my practice of refractive surgery, almost I have gone to the level of about 40% of 40 to 50% of my patients I am advising a surface ablation, because the confidence has gone so high that I feel very comfortable doing a surface ablation. I don't have the issues of ectasia nagging my head. I don't have the issues of flap causing any visual disturbance in my head, and my patients are better satisfied if I explain them and counsel them well. Even when I looked into the literature before making that talk, I found many of the papers which all suggested that biomechanical strength after a PRK was much better as compared to the LASIK. Even when we were comparing any surgery, may it be SMILE, may it be femto-LASIK, anything was always better. And one of the papers even said that the vision after 7 years of a LASIK did not give a stable refraction, whereas in PRK, whatever the changes were in the first year and after a year, all the patients had a stable refraction. Though coma was an issue in both. So whenever we have a borderline cornea, my friend, or a thin cornea with a suspected topography of these all issues, my choice always remains a surface ablation. But yes, I limit my surface ablation to a spherical equivalent to -6, which was my initial benchmark, but now I have shifted to almost about a 8 or 8.5 diopter of spherical correction. So here's an example of choosing the right procedure. This was a patient which we encountered just in the recent past. And as Dr. Neeraj was saying, accidentally, we didn't actually analyze the topography very deeply. And in the topography, only one eye had an inferior steepening of a slightly steeper K values of 42 in the inferior zone, 44.2 as compared to the 42.7 in the superior zone in the right eye, and the left eye topography was normal. The surgeon from our center chose to do a LASIK, and 7 years down the line, the patient came, 6 years down the line, the patient came with this picture to us. It was a frank ectasia. Luckily, when we just try to go back, we could actually see our mistake. And this is what I say now, what I should not have done. Maybe a PRK was a better choice in this patient when we had a suspicion. We tend to overlook, or maybe because of some pressure on the surgeon just went on, which should not have been done. Or rather, I would say if we had a better tool to analyze as compared to the TMS5 initially we had, maybe if a pentacam was done, maybe this was the patient for no intervention at all. So there are other specific indications for PRK as well. There are patients who are involved into various sports activity, or they have retina issues where extensive laser barrage has been previously done. I believe these are also the right candidates to do a PRK rather than doing a LASIK and giving them a flap. So this was another hockey player who came with an injury after the LASIK, and the flap was displaced, though the patient reached in time and the flap was very well reposited back, and the visual outcome was perfectly normal after that. But every patient may not be lucky. This patient had a LASIK done elsewhere. She had an injury, went to another ophthalmologist, and a pad and bandage was done over the injury with a central epithelial defect. And she landed up to us with this kind of a epithelial ingrowth. We did try to lift the flap, do the cleaning, but still some haze was left because the ingrowth was quite dense. And then YAG laser was done over it, and the defect disappeared. So these are the general issues with the patient when an injury occurs over the flap. So wherever we suspect any kind of a trauma which the patient may encounter in their day because of their occupation or their day-to-day activity, I believe LASIK is the choice for them. This is another example of taking up a patient with a very high refractive error, treating a minus 9.5, as I found that the cornea was very thick and good, though the AC depth was fine. And we went and did a LASIK. Just about 5 months later, the patient is coming to us with a refraction of this. And I think we put our diagnosis on regression for this. We are still waiting and ask the patient to wait and see. The next question comes to my mind is whether we are dealing with regression or ectasia. And again, the same thing, what I should not have done. Could an ICL be a better choice in this patient? I would just sum up by saying that PRK is a good alternative to LASIK as regards to the safety and the corneal stability. However, it carries some problems, especially the haze and epithelial healing, which are much less with the today's scenario of advanced surface ablation. And of course, LASIK is better in the straightforward cases, but we only follow ultra thin flaps of 90 microns. Thanks a lot.